Hey everybody, Grommel's here, and this is number 3 of my little arcade maneuver guide. So, this time we take a look at the YoYo. And since I recorded some more footage showcasing maneuvers and tips I talked about in the last 2 videos, I will also show you some extra examples of those things afterwards. I think I will keep doing that in the future and every now and then provide some extra examples of things I talked about in previous videos. But first things first, let's take a look at the YoYo. You use the YoYo to get or stay in fire position on a turning target that is slower and or turning tighter than you. Imagine you are behind an opponent and turning with him, but he is turning tighter or you threaten to overshoot. What you can do now to avoid an overshoot and get back in firing position is ease up on the turn and level out a bit, then go up and do the turn with a vertical component and come down on your opponent. So the YoYo can be used to stay with a more agile opponent using your greater speed and movement in the vertical. And it can be used to prevent overshooting without wasting too much of your own speed. You of course don't have to be in a turn to initiate the YoYo. You can do it from level flight as well. Okay. Let's take a look at a few examples of the YoYo in action. Here you can see me attacking a pretty slow flying Stuka. Just as I am about to overshoot, he starts a turn to the right. So I go up and do a YoYo turn to the right and come back down on him for the finishing blow. So, this was a pretty basic example for a YoYo in action. In the next clip I'm following a F2A Buffalo, a quite maneuverable plane in War Thunder right now. I just fire a deflection shot at him in his right turn, when he abruptly changes direction and does a turn to the left, which I cannot follow with a normal turn of my own. So I go up in a YoYo to get back in fire position. I get some good hits and go back up in a second smaller YoYo to comfortably stay on his tail to finish him off. Now, one useful trait of the YoYo is that you initiate it in a similar way than the barrel roll. This means from the point you initiate the maneuver to about halfway through the maneuver, you can still decide if you want to do a YoYo, a barrel roll or a displacement roll, which I will show you in a later video. This gives you the ability to tailor your move to what your opponent is doing. Like in this example, I am closing in fast on this Cobra and I want to do a barrel roll to prevent overshooting. And I assume he will continue to fly straight. But he does a turn to the right, so I switch to a YoYo instead. If he would have done a turn to the left, I could have done a displacement roll. So, if you are about to overshoot an opponent and you are not sure what he will do, you can always start by going up and then choose the correct maneuver based on his actions. Now, that concludes the YoYo showcase. As promised, I want to bring you a few examples of maneuvers and tips I talked about in previous videos. Well then, to start things off, in the last video I told you that it is important not to tunnel vision on just one target. And if somebody else is attacking the same target than you, I consider it to be the smarter move to look for another target nearby that is not already under attack, even if you were the first one to attack the initial opponent. This is a pretty obvious tip, but still a mistake a lot of people make. The following clip showcases this. I am on my way to help a 112 that is attacked by 2 Spitfires. My plane is heavily damaged, so if one of the Spits decides to attack my Ki-61, it would be challenging to maneuver with it. But they are both tunnel visioned on the 112 and ignore me. This gets me a double kill and the 112 is saved. Remember, hitting targets that are focused on evading is harder than hitting targets that are focused on shooting. So, the attacker usually presents an easier target to a third plane entering the fight than the defender presents to the attacker. Another situation in which you want to avoid tunnel vision is when being behind an opponent and attacked by a third plane. It can be very tempting to stay on the first target and try to shoot him down before the newcomer can shoot you down. But in most cases it is better to react to the new threat right away. Your initial target might just make you run for it and don't turn around, like in this case. If he does turn around, he needs a bit of time to get back. You then might have to switch back and forth between the two, and that is difficult, but 1 versus 2 fights usually are. Now, another thing I mentioned last time was that fighters with high altitude and speed have higher energy than low and slow ones. I would like to show you a small example of how you can use high energy to attack groups of targets in a boom and zoom approach, even though that is not my usual playing style. Most of you probably already know how this works, but it is still interesting for people new to the game. So, in the following clip I attack a group of 3 low-flying planes from higher altitude. I manage to take out the 109 and then, since I know they do not have enough energy to follow me, I just climb away. Now, all I have to do is wait for them to run out of speed and turn around, and I can do the same thing again. I choose the 112 as my target this time, and again use my higher energy level to simply climb away from the P-40 that is trying to follow me. I can now choose to continue to boom and zoom, or simply fly away. Now, as a last example in this video, I want to show you a clip where a few of the flight maneuvers I showed you in the last videos are chained together. We start with an attack on a Yak-7. I threaten to overshoot, so I go up in a barrel roll. However, the target crashes and it is not necessary to finish the maneuver. Now, I see a bomber on the minimap approaching behind me, and I go up in a half loop, followed by a half roll, to turn around energy efficient and gain some altitude. The bomber is an IL-2, and I use a split S to get behind it and start attacking. I am of course faster than the IL-2, so after a bit I need to do a barrel roll to keep from overshooting, and keep attacking till the IL is destroyed. So, that's it for this video. I hope it was interesting. Thanks for watching, and maybe I see you next time.